breaks the shadow of the weary heart. Truth cuts the dark like a flaming dart. Voices rising strong to lift the call. This is the time we give it all. Lynne Scott Haggerman bringing the fire. Words that ignite hearts burning higher. Faith and power, no chains can bind. Step into the light, leave fear behind.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lynne Scott Haggerman Podcast. I am the voice they tried to silence. Here, truth has no filter. Freedom is our mission, and light exposes the darkness. I am your host, Lynne Scott Haggerman. I'm a survivor of child trafficking and medical experimentation underground at a U.S. University Medical Center in conjunction with the government through MK Ultra and mind control. Today, I'm a warrior for justice and a passionate advocate for those silenced by systems of control. Be sure to visit my websites, qgrit.org, where I'm helping trafficked children who are rescued, as well as adults with any type of trauma, and Live Younger with Lynne, LYNNE.com, where I'm an independent LifeWave distributor, which is the wearable medbed. Learn more about my vision, my mission, my work, and how you can be part of the solution at those websites. Now, let's get to the truth. I want to welcome in my guest.
Hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm doing really good. I'm very excited about being on the air with a courageous colleague like yourself.
Thank you so much. It is such a blessing and an honor to have you here, Dr. Breggin. I want to share with the audience about your background and give a little bit about your bio, bring you back on stage. So today, I am very honored to welcome Dr. Peter Breggin, globally known as the Conscience of Psychiatry. I love that. And when you hear his background, you're going to understand why. He is a Harvard-trained psychiatrist and a fearless reformer. He has helped stop the return. He helped stop the return of lobotomies. He exposed the dangers of shock treatment, warned the world about the risks of psychiatric drugs like Prozac, Zoloft, Paxil, linking them to violent suicide and brain injury. We're going to talk about that shortly. Together with his wife, Ginger, he also shut down a massive federal eugenics program in the 1990s that targeted our inner city children, our little ones, for dangerous experiments under the false claim of finding genetic causes for violence. That speaks to my heart, audience, because what was once below ground, they tried to bring above ground, and praise God that Dr. Breggin and his wife shut that down. Now, he's sounding the alarm on what he calls the greatest global threat yet, the pre-planned COVID-19 power grab. In his best-selling book, COVID-19 and the Global Predators, which I am so blessed and honored to have received a copy. I'm holding it up for the radio audience. Dr. Breggin names the elites, the agencies, and the industries that conspired to reshape the world through fear and control. In my world, we call that MK Ultra. He's a lifelong defender of science and human dignity. Welcome, Dr. Peter Breggin. I'm so honored to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's amazing at my age now. I'm going to be 90 at my next birthday. So I'm doing anticipatory presentation of that. And I'm looking back. Huh?
Happy pre-birthday. And you know what? You are going strong, which goes to show us that the age we are entering in is an age where we are going to have wonderful, productive lives. 90 is the new age we're all shooting for. God bless you.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to more and more years. I think, people always want to know, what do you think is the main cause? And I think first, good luck, probably.
Yeah.
Ginger deeply believes, and I've come along, that God's protected me. And then when she joined her, both of us, to
Amen.
do the work we do. And that seems very real to me now, more and more real. But I think, of course, loving what you do. I mean, Ginger and I are so funny. we still often work 60, 70-hour weeks. I mean, because we just can't tear ourselves away. Or if one of us manages to escape work, the other runs along and says, wait, you haven't seen this today. So we end up talking until midnight about something when we're supposed to stop all such things at 10 p.m. So I think getting involved, letting yourself be involved in what you believe in. And it certainly doesn't have to be reform work. I don't know that God's going to, pick the freedom fighters, even who risk their lives as we have done. We've had a huge attacks on us of various kinds. Or whether he'll pick the man who raised 5 children beautifully with his wife. So what I'm really concluding in my older years, my big message is to open your heart to love. Because if I were doing the work I'm doing now without love, it would have destroyed me. If I'd been doing it out of anger, if you see early, you can go on our Substack, Peter and Ginger Breggin, or dive into our website, Breggin.com, and you'll see pictures of me when I'm maybe 32 years old, and I look fierce. And,
Wow.
I've got that grasp of the facts and that. And part of that was anger, outrage at what was being done. And I had to ask God to take the anger. I didn't think I'd keep doing this very well if I had to be angry too. So could you give that job to somebody else? And I really worked on not being outraged, not being angry. And that does wonders for you. I mean, if you're walking around grateful for what you have,
Yes,
and walking around, thinking about that there's such beauty in life and that you care about these people, it's impossible to break yourself down and go crazy or get exhausted, really.
that's right.
And I think love is very positive. I don't think itself love has anything the matter with it. I think it's my own personal definition is that love is a joyful awareness. So if we're joyful aware of the work we do, if we're joyfully and feel grateful for it, no matter how hard it is, if we're grateful for nature, and especially if we're grateful for each other and for God, it is just the best place to come at in life. And I come from being very intellectual and being very secular for much of my life to just more and more seeing that every time I've kept to this viewpoint in what I do and what Ginger does now, we've been together 42 years, and I've been doing reform work since I was 18. So that's also quite a while ago in the state mental hospitals when I was a kid at Harvard. So that's the kind of an opening what's on my mind. I've been thinking a lot about freedom and love, how they relate to each other, and writing about it. A lot of my work now and Ginger's work, I'll give you an idea of just how tough Ginger's work is. She's finishing 2 chapters for our new book on depopulation and mass murder and the history of it and how it's being expressed today. So, I mean, we talk really dark stuff, and often as we're going against your enemy and ours, which is the deep state, very often they're behind these evil attitudes, and they always support them. They're like flies, going after them, supporting the worst possible things in society.
That's astounding. Whenever you talked about your most recent work, I wasn't aware of that. When you said depopulation, whenever the COVID jabs came out, I was praying about those, and I said, God, what is that? And he said, this is a depopulation event. It's exactly what he said. So God bless you for the research that you're doing, for being in the fight, because you definitely, and I agree with you. I love is the greatest force on the planet, and I would not be alive today had it not been for love. And love is also my message, because that is how we win. The deep state, they don't have it. They're incapable of it. And we do. And that's how we win. I'd like to jump into the recent shooter in New York. I'd love to start there, because over the years, one of the things that you did that I shared in the introduction was you sounded the alarm to the world on these psychiatric drugs and how they are linked to violence. So talk to me. I know we've all been watching information unfold about the shooter in New York. Tell me from your background and knowledge and expertise what you're seeing.
Well, my background is most unusual. I'm probably the best background psychiatrist in the world on these issues. And it started because just after I published Toxic Psychiatry, published it in the 1990, and just when the drugs were coming out.
Yes.
Hitting in 89, mostly in 90. And I already had some stories about how I thought Prozac the indications were that there's going to be a drug causing a lot of violence, suicide, and craziness. And that introduced me to a group of a few dozen lawyers who were bringing lawsuits against Eli Lilly for all those things. So the lawyers had over 100 suits. I think there were maybe 15, 20 lawyers, but over 100 suits, 120, 25 against Lilly. And they did a national hunt and interviewed people, and they picked me as their first choice, as far as I can tell. I think probably other people didn't want the job of going up against Eli Lilly.
Well, sure.
And really, it's Eli Lilly and the deep state. The connections are so close. Connecting Eli Lilly, take a little aside to connect Eli Lilly to your experience. When the CIA began a wide distribution of LSD to Americans, young people.
Yes.
I mean, what a way to stop the freedom anti-war movement, turn them into hippies. And they literally went from, I think they were actually seeding these meetings, these outdoor meetings with LSD from the sky. They were dropping things like with packages of LSD in them.
Wow.
And it turns out that Eli Lilly made a deal with the CIA to provide them as much LSD as they wanted, including tons, because they had found a new method of making it. And there are two different sources from the, which I don't have them in front of my face, but they're from, which I've read and used before, from the deep state, from the CIA, where they talk about this LSD that they got from Eli Lilly. And in one place they say Lilly gave it to us, or the interpreter says, it looks like Lilly gave this money to us. And another one says we paid them $400,000 or something for it. But there you have the company I was going up against. You can imagine what they would like to have done to me and what they tried to do to me.
Yes.
And it just directly links the deep state with the CIA very poignantly, because, of course, they were doing these terrible experiments on American people and on children. And
yes.
We've had a few folks on our show about this in the past. Now I'm on your show.
Yes.
So I come in with a lot of background on this. I was a medical expert hired in the shootings at Colorado, both shootings at Colorado, the ones at the theater and the original ones at the high school.
Yes.
I was an expert around cases that came from that. So, and from some others too. So that's a background I have.
Yeah.
Briefly, I would say that one of the things about the shooters that I found was that almost invariably they had a mental health story. And often, but not always, they had psych drugs. And often these psych drugs were the SSRI antidepressants, which for some people are highly overstimulating. They have like a methamphetamine effect of driving the person up, but not disabling them. See, for a drug to do school shooting, it usually takes a degree of planning, a degree of handling, getting guns when you're young, getting the weapons, learning to use them. So
Yeah.
you want a drug that doesn't completely disable you, like say the antipsychotic drugs. I mean, if you're on Geodone, or if you're on Navaine, or if you're on Zyprexa, or you're on any of these drugs, you get too disabled to really get up and go and attack anybody, by and large.
Yeah.
But the stimulating drugs, so sometimes they're on the amphetamines given to children.
Yes.
And in this case, we have, now, let me say, years ago when I was first beginning, the newspapers would carry these stories and say Prozac was involved. So when I wrote my biggest bestseller still, and just a few years after Ginger joined me, she's co-author, called Talking Back to Prozac, I was able to list dozens of newspaper accounts of weird things. You know, man kills his grandmother, stabs her 25 times, man kills his daughter he loves, so on. And it
Wow.
was usually an SSRI, and it was in the newspaper.
Yes.
But so is the global power, and that's where my mind is really thinking mostly, is global power and how they work, and, you know, to close down the nation during COVID and to damage so many of us and so on. But
Yes.
just looking at this now, in the past you would read about it. Now the newspapers don't tell you anything about the drug the person is on.
No, they
And
don't.
it gets right down to the local cop. So the local, or even if they're on a drug, but the local in New York City, the local cop looked at what the drugs were that were in his car. He saw they were psych drugs, and what does he do? He tells people, yes, there was. He doesn't even start to tell them, I don't think, but once, and then I think he's told to shut up. But then a reporter asks him, "And did you find drugs in the car?" And he says, "Yes." And the reporter says, "What were they?" "I can't say." And that's what happens now. So he's on drugs. We don't know what. The odds are overwhelming. There are stimulating drugs,
Yes.
probably an antidepressant of one sort, because almost all of them can be stimulating. They're not always. They vary and different with different people. Or on an amphetamine like stimulating drug, directly stimulating. The in his now, one of the things I think about is that just as important as the exposure to the drugs for these guys who end up committing mass murders is their exposure to psychiatry.
Okay.
Because psychiatry hurts people. And even casual seeing your psychiatrist once a month is deadly for a number of reasons. And I am a psychiatrist. And
Yes, you are.
I've had more post internship training than most psychiatrists. In fact, unlike most psychiatrists, I even had an internship, because back then you actually had to even get a medical internship after your medical school. So, and I got the only internship in the country that had 6 months of psychiatry. So I've got 3.5 years of training in psychiatry, and traditionally is 3, probably. It is degrading for most people to be in the hands of psychiatrists.
Yes.
Because they have a degrading attitude toward people. Before there was direct-to-consumer advertising, I used to get on all the big shows, and Oprah many times, Larry King Live many times. I was on a lot on Hannity and Combs and Hannity.
Wow.
And on every, I was on every. I'd be recognized in airports, not very often, but sometimes.
Yeah,
And
that's cool.
I was on, like Good Morning America and all those things all the time. But as soon as the pharmaceutical industry got the leverage of being able to pay money and get advertisements, it became blood money. It meant no critic of psychiatry could again appear on public media or in it. New York Times didn't matter. I had 5 or 6 letters published and was mentioned in the New York Times. It all stopped. By 1990, it was almost over. And by 92, I think, was my last appearance on Fox.
That's astounding.
And it really is. The power is so enormous. And some of the desperation may have been me in particular, because I mean, I was really a voice. I mean, I got invited onto CNBC, the news one. Is that what the news
Yes,
one is?
yes, yes, it
Onto the
is.
news one. We could look up when, but it was the president of Eli Lilly got a major award from them, a businessman of the year. So because they were making all this money. So it's probably 1990, 91, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they have me on as one of the, and the only one in the box, who's an expert. And then they've got other experts in the audience. And they start with me and they say, Dr. Breggin, what do you think about his getting this award? I say, well, the company is fraudulent. They didn't properly study the drug. They didn't properly market the drug. And they knew it was committing violence and suicide, and they tried to hide it from us. So I'm not celebrating it, but I love the opportunity to present the truth about this. Can you imagine anybody getting that out of their mouth even? No?
Exactly. Yes, not, yes.
I mean, one of the last, Ginger pointed this out to me, one of the last really poignant memories with the media was when I I testified before Congress about children and the drugs. I've testified before Congress several times.
Yes.
And we went right from there to carry the message to Ted Koppel's show. What was that called? That was the big one.
Oh, I can't remember. I've heard his name, but I can't remember.
Maybe a little before your time. The biggest show was the biggest show in America. Oh God,
Okay.
what was that? But anyway, we get to the building, this big tall building, and we're at the bottom. We walk in to the 30 flights we're going to be going up in the elevator, and the elevator pops open. A man comes out and says, "Stop." I said, "What? You're not going on." And I said, "Well, can we go up and talk to him?" He says, "You are not getting on the elevator." Okay. I mean, what am I going to do?
Right.
So we left. But that's sort of like what began to happen. They'd have me on because I was the world's expert on a number of very, very important issues.
Yes, you are.
And still am. And then the word would just seep down. And now, of course, I have my own show. We've got, I have no complaints. I'm very happy with my life.
Good.
I mean, I still do legal cases and I see my patients, which I love. And we have our own show, and our radio show goes on to every single platform there is for internet shows. Then we've got 70,000 people signed up on our Substack. So we're doing well. But the amount of censorship that I was probably the first person to be censored. I was one of the first where they went after my medical license. They went after my medical license in 1987. There were only a handful of other people, and they went after my medical license. I think they couldn't find a patient, to set up to sue me or anything, and no one had ever sued me and my clients, and so they went after me for remarks I made on Oprah Winfrey. At the end of one of Oprah's shows, well, I'll tell you at the start of the show. At the start of the show, Oprah and I were really liked each other then. She was a very different person, going back that far. And I'm waiting in the green room, like you kept me waiting.
Yeah.
In the green room.
Yes, I did.
And I'm going on to debate the president of the American Psychiatric Association. And Oprah had arranged it. I can explain that too. They didn't want to debate me in a worse way. She said she wasn't going to let him have a show. Think about this happening now. Never. So the association has said that APA went to Oprah and said, "You're ruining us, hurting us. People are dying. You have to let me on the show to debate Dr. Breggin." And so I'm debating him. And when Oprah comes into the room, I said, "Oprah, think about one thing when you're thinking about this guy, Fink, his name was, who was the president of the America. I said, think about what it's like to have no spirituality and to treat people for their emotional problems. She said, psychiatry has no spirituality. I said, no, but it's all materialistic. It's all drugs, shock treatment. There's nobody home. They don't treat you like certainly like you're a child of God, and certainly not like you're a treasure. You're not. Yeah. You're a diagnosis in a manual. And more, they're seeing 5 people an hour so they can get tremendous amount of med checks in, and those pay more than a session of therapy. So it's a very, very good thing to do for them.
Many.
And but that just occurred to me again, just talking with her, and it just doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't happen anymore. We are so censored, and it's been growing so much. It was censored when I started. You'd expect that, but this is just astonishing.
Which is your most recent book too, about COVID and the global predators. So what? Tell me about that. Tell me about.
Well, it goes right into the censorship area, which is interesting too. But go ahead. Tell you what, dear, about it. I'm sorry. It doesn't offend you to be called dear. When I start to really enjoy someone.
It doesn't offend me at all.
What?
It doesn't offend me at all. I'm
okay.
Honored.
There's no meter there for wokeness or something.
No, there is not. I am very honored to have you on. Your expertise. I'm very, very honored. And I'm very interested in your book regarding COVID, how we are global prey. I know there have been, several people, of course, who have spoken about COVID since it first started, but you have a very interesting, you did quite a deep dive. So I would love to hear what you learned, your research, your perspective on what we have been going through.
Well, we spent almost 2 years. We got the book out November of 2021. So we had almost a year experience with the vaccines, and we were already saying it's killing people and has to be stopped. There was no question about it. Actually, the first week it was known. But there are 2 interesting things about it. We took the completed manuscript to the most freedom-oriented press there is that many people go to.
Okay.
And I had a really good agent. Actually, was right up there in Trump's circle.
Okay.
I just come to him through my books, not through politics.
Yeah.
And he handed the book in there because we'd already had a few turndowns from traditional places, which I expected. And he said he'd take it happily, and then he turned it down 2 days later, which I'm very familiar with as a process. I thought, holy moly. So my wife, who had published two books earlier, one of mine called Wow, I'm an American, How to Live Like Our Heroic Founders. Oh. I love it. It's a book for the whole family. Wrote it several years ago. It's written in a style that anybody can enjoy, but it goes into the whole history of the start of America and what is indeed wondrous about our country. Mm. That book was so censored that my lifelong agent wouldn't handle it.
Goodness.
I said, he said, I don't wake up happy to be an American. And so I learned a little earlier than some just how woke the publishing industry had gone, how America hating it had gone, that my boyhood friend would do that. And that eventually ended the relationship. So at that point, Ginger said, I'll publish it. I'll make a publishing house. I don't even think she said, we'll publish it. I think she said, I'll publish it. She made a publishing house.
Yeah.
And we sold the book as best we could. And then she published a book about my work, The Conscience of Psychiatry. So Ginger said, well, we'll publish it. We've got 50,000 people on YouTube. We'll do great. And so she had just put together everything you need to publish a book.
Yeah.
And she published it. And we stayed cool on YouTube. YouTube had been mad at me about psych drugs, and they were mad about me about criticizing global predators, and
Yeah.
they give us little warnings. So we waited a few months without doing anything too radical on YouTube. Besides, I was working my tail off getting the book done, and so was Ginger. And YouTube had nothing. There were no outstanding criticisms from YouTube. Functioning highly, and we put up a YouTube video, and we put up a feature by me, a column by me. And in 45 minutes, YouTube permanently took us down with no explanation even.
Oh my goodness.
We thought we were lost. But we had begun to be real freedom fighters on much bigger issues than the drugs. We were now working with some of the great freedom fighting people, many of whom were going against the vaccines. And
Yes.
that you can imagine how many doctors, well, you know this, how many doctors who never thought about a vaccine and took them suddenly knew this was evil because you could see Fauci. Fauci was the devil incarnate.
Yes,
Only
he
the
was.
devil would dare stand up in front of America and say, I am science. I mean,
Yes.
you practically have to hold his ears so they wouldn't peek, like a devil's ears or a tail come out. I am science?
Yeah, I hear you.
Give me a break.
I love that.
And we ended up selling over 160,000 copies.
Good for you. Good for
And
you.
we've been working at all this since, but we were very primed to be able to dive into the big question, and we had our little discussions with God, which I once in a while talk about and do more now, because why should I, out of embarrassment or afraid of looking unscientific, keep from the public a huge part of my success as an older man?
Yes.
And especially in my marriage, bringing God in.
Yes.
Ginger
Yes.
brought God in. Ginger taught me God loves me.
Oh, good for her.
What could I possibly do for her that would equal that?
That's beautiful. I love that, Dr. Breggin.
Yes. She used to, we used to watch the movie about the angels. There were two angels, and they would disclose at the end that they were angels. And
Oh, touched by an angel.
exactly.
Yes.
So I'm sitting minding my own business one day, probably having a nice liberal Jewish sadness going on from my past. And Ginger came up to me and she said, she popped the flashlight on behind her head through her auburn hair and said, yes, I'm an angel and God loves you.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's
It
wonderful.
is so sweet.
I love
Folks,
Ginger.
be sweet to one another. I mean, I really should be much less shy about the marriage, because I really want people to know, if you, boy, this is going far afield, but there's a couple of principles that people are never taught about marriage. First, if you love someone, you can't have serious conflict with them, because you are taking their needs as serious as your own. It's the only place in life that happens. It will never happen in our lifetimes, in any war that goes on. None will be ended by love. But all conflict ends when you look at the other person and you actually have a warmer feeling than when you look at yourself in the mirror. There's a good test.
Yes.
I don't ever look in the mirror and get really excited. I just look at Ginger, I get really excited.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that, especially after almost 45 years of marriage. So,
Yeah, so
I know everyone listening is excited to hear that too.
So there is one. Try to revive the very best of you've ever known of your feelings towards your loved one and keep it growing and recapture it. Now, one way to do that, a very important way, is that since conflicts between a husband and a wife or any intimate people are impossible to unravel by blaming the other person, it just doesn't work. But what does work is to take complete responsibility for what you may be contributing to the discomfort, the misery, the breakup, whatever it is. Take complete responsibility and say, I'm going to change me so I don't respond that way anymore to these things. I won't tell her how bad she is. I won't act like she's to blame, or I won't act like, he's my father. And sometimes you can make, if you have any of a therapy orientation, you'll find that most of the battles are over stuff from childhood, which is really weird.
Interesting.
Now, what you can do when you say to yourself, Lynne, I'm entirely responsible for the muff up in this show. And that means you get the opportunity to maybe think about your muff up in the show.
It does take two.
Even if it doesn't take two, because that's true. It almost always, the two are involved. But sometimes I'll do something that just comes flat out of something my mother did to me. I'll react to because I think Ginger's doing the same thing. I have no idea that's the case until I sit down, take a deep breath, and realize it. So sometimes it's just one of us. But even so, if all you look at is what you can do, maybe what you could have done is the minute she hurt your feelings, you cried instead of getting mad, and you asked her for a kiss and a hug. Maybe that would have stopped the whole thing to begin with. So there your responsibility is. And the beauty of it, if you take complete responsibility for yourself, you'll start thinking, well, what I could have even done different? Maybe my responsibility is I wasn't loving enough the last week because I've been too occupied with my book or something. So the more you can take complete responsibility for being a loving person, for being a source of love and not of conflict, because you love the other person, frankly, more than yourself. And many of us know this experience. Many of us actually had situations where we risked our lives to save our children from something, or we risked our lives grabbing our dog from in front of a car or something. I mean, that tells you you're actually at that moment, you're concerned about your child, your dog, or anybody else. And then what can happen if this is meant to be as a relationship is the other person, your husband or your wife, sees you doing this and realizes how wonderful it is, and they adopt the same place. And then, the love gets scary because it's like new, it's fresh.
That is so beautiful. I did not know that our conversation, I love having conversations with people on my show, Dr. Breggin, and I did not know our conversation would go this direction. My heart is very pleased with it because you are mentioned at the start of the show that you're in your 90s. You have definite words of wisdom for us in many, many areas, especially with your background in psychiatry helps,
Yeah.
as well as you're such a godly man and a God-loving man, and your background. So with that, I'm going to pause for a station break, and then we will be back.
A life empowered is closer than you think. We're all looking for a better way. Reimagine what's next with a new sense of exuberance. Why not power on like you mean it? Or power off blissfully? A better sleep is a better awake. You've never moved like this before. With the energy nature intended. Imagine reprogramming the way you look at the speed of science, at longevity, at exhilaration. It's next level rejuvenation. Take control of your well-being from the inside out and outside in. The light within is ready to ignite. Be the light. LifeWave.
Well done.
I'll get us back. Don't you love that?
I do. I'm really looking at the way you've set up your show. I think it's very cool. And maybe
Thank
I'll
you.
ask Ginger to get in touch with you and see who you worked with, if you're willing to let us know. I
Oh,
think
thank
you've
you so
done a
much.
nice
So
job.
Thank you so much. I can tell you now who I worked with. First of all, the Patriots Prayer Network is an astounding group of people, and they have helped me very much with the intro and the outro. I think you're show number 8 for me, Dr. Breggin, here on the
I
Patriots
heard that we were new. It looks like show of many years experience, actually.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much. I'm still on my end. I tell people it's like a production studio with lots of buttons and things to push, and I'm still acclimating to the buttons. But thank you so much for your feedback, because I'm thoroughly enjoying, and I'm so grateful to be an anchor on the Patriots Prayer Network. And I love having amazing guests like yourself, because it makes the show. And I know we have thousands of people across the media platforms watching and listening in, as well as on radio and television. And it's just an amazing time to be alive, even in the middle of things that we're going through. When it comes to the COVID and your new book, you had um, in the my introduction, I'd shared how um, the elites, the agencies, the industries that reshaped our world through fear and control. You know, that is what I survived as a child, and that is MK Ultra, where the government or whoever uses fear. And if they can make people afraid enough, they will get people to do things that they would never, ever do on their own. So when it came to COVID in my family, I did not get vaxxed because God told me it was a depopulation event. I asked him, he said, do not do it. And I did not. And I was not allowed to go to a family event, a holiday, because of that. And, you know, families were divided over if you were vaxxed, if you weren't. And what they did was, like, whenever I was a child, they create fear and make you so afraid of death that, or severe physical harm is what they did to me as a little girl, that then it's for control. So that way you will do things that you would never do before, such as, um, you know, put a piece of toilet paper across your face and pretend that that stopped a virus, which is like stopping a mosquito through a giant fence, and blocking off our oxygen, reducing the brain power of our children. Our children have been set back 1 to 2 full years of intellectual ability because they were withheld oxygen during that time. Now we have the white fibrous clots that they're finding in. I had Tom Havlin on. 33% of the corpses. Now in the living too, they're going to vascular surgeons, pulling out these huge rubber clots out of people who are alive, which, praise God, because they don't die of a heart attack or a stroke from them. But everyone is still quiet about it. There's still so much fear that they're still controlling the narrative. And that, my friends, is MK Ultra. What I survived underground was the experimentation that brought this above ground to where they could do this on a worldwide scale. And you exposed this through your book.
Yeah, one of the a little addition to what you're saying is that MK Ultra is a part of the CIA,
Yes.
and I had been fighting electroshock drugs and psychosurgery, and I did one of the earliest things I did. We did pretty much put a stop to psychosurgery. This is pre-Ginger.
Which is lobotomies for
Lobotomies,
those
yeah.
lobotomies. Yes.
Yeah, it means opening a person's head or boring a hole in it and literally destroying portions of the frontal lobes with anything from a scalpel to a dicer. What the inventor used, a dicer, like from a kitchen. You know, you went in, diced the frontal lobe.
Barbaric.
It makes you believe in the devil and and reinforces the idea we're fighting evil.
Yes.
But what I found was that the CIA was early on was supporting electroshock, as you probably know, in Canada. Yes. Horrendous experiments, actually taking women and trying to erase their memories and reprogram them with the help of the husband who approved the electroshock. Just
oh my goodness,
beyond belief. Ghoulish beyond belief.
That is cruel.
And then when we during psychosurgery, I found that the Justice Department was funding him. So there's another agency. I now know that the FDA is 100% behind funding, controlling, making sure electroshock doesn't get put out of business. I had a very big case in 2019 in which, or 18, in which it was against one of the shock machine companies, Somatics, which is in the U.S. is only 2. They've never been tested formally by any government agency. And the good tests, if you look at them, show that it causes brain damage, but that's about all you can see. It's not doing any good.
Right.
Here's the CIA talking about how they are, in one of their memos, they're promoting the electroshock.
Yes.
Well, what happened when the other side protested and they asked the judge to throw the case that I was in out of court because there was no evidence for brain damage from electroshock. So it shouldn't go to a jury because there's no evidence. Intervene first on science and say no evidence. And so I wrote a 20-page paper, wasn't excessive, but reasonably sized paper on brain damage from electroshock. And the judge then said, after reading me and listening to the court lawyers debate, said, no, we got enough evidence here to go to a jury. So that's mammoth. So Somatics within a week settled.
Oh.
And, this was a big deal. Never gets covered.
Right.
Never gets covered.
No, these things don't.
I should actually put up an old blog on it or something. But
Yes.
they settle and they say, it's not our fault, folks, because we're warning you, the doctors. I actually say this, you're the intermediary. You got to tell the patients all this stuff. And then they quote from authoritative sources, which are admitting, for the doctors, but not for the public. They never do that. That they have this study and that study and animal studies and human studies about brain damage, memory loss, huge memory losses in some people and stuff like that. And I'm sitting around thinking, wow, what a great effect we had. And within a week, the FDA, for the first time in history, approves electroshock treatment without testing.
Yes, they would.
Now, so we're looking at the elaborate deep state of which this MK Ultra and good old Sidney Gottlieb, who was the
That's right.
chief murderous psychiatrist, they were the cutting edge, literally, in supporting
Germany.
the worst things in psychiatry.
That's
But what
right.
this also tells you, folks, is psychiatry, organized psychiatry, represented by the American Psychiatric Association, in its admitted, they got so when I used to get letters in the New York Times, I quoted that the Psychiatric Association had a partnership with the drug companies and explained how awful that was and what a breach of all the ethics.
Yes.
And they were so stung, they should have ignored it. That was not something to answer. You should have let that go. They answered, Dr. Breggin doesn't understand. We have an ethical partnership with the drug companies.
Uh-huh. Okay. Their definition of ethics is a bit different than we the people, I think.
I think very different than the courts would hold.
Yes.
With any sense of, conflict of interest would reflect on. No, it's not a conflict of interest. They support our conferences. They pay for people in our offices. We and they together control what the journals say. I mean, no, it's a good partnership.
So why would the FDA want to electrocute and fry the brains of U.S. citizens?
It's the same awful question as why would they knowingly, why would they do animal experiments, or at least, see animal experiments that show that all COVID vaccines kill rats and don't do any good? And why would they do that? And then and then not even test them when they give them to the people? And fitting again with this is a good deep state education. I'm going from love to deep state.
Yes.
We'll all get dizzy. Why would the Defense Department, the DOD, be the ones to run COVID-19 for the first year and a half?
Excellent question.
Another deep state. Why would they be the ones to announce it on their stationery, not on Trump's stationery, not on FDA, not on HHS, which is Health and Human Services? The Defense Department announces COVID-19 and, Trump's beloved, I like Trump. I think he's doing miracles. I think he's also becoming a menace with his support of the vaccines and drugs and stuff. So very ambivalent, trying to get words that somebody will pass on to him about how he's going to ruin everything, including humanity, while he's saving us. Because they're now full-blown supporting COVID vaccination now. Voluntary, supposedly. People aren't voluntary. They do what their doctors tell them. I mean, it's disgusting. But anyway, I got on a kind of off track there, but...
So that is completely understandable.
That's what I'm doing. I'm piling on all these different things about the horrors why would they do it?
Why would the Department of Defense announce this? From your research, what did you find their involvement was?
Oh, there's just no question about it. And we have this, folks, we have all of this particular material. Others began discovering before the book came out.
Yes.
But I didn't believe it. I didn't get into it in the rush. I didn't get into it. And Catherine Watt and Sasha Latipova, two amazing women. You should have them both on your show.
Okay. I have not heard of their names.
You haven't had them before?
I haven't heard of their names.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, Ginger will email you.
Okay.
Catherine with a K, Watt, W-A-T-T.
Okay.
And Sasha Latipova, Latypova.
Okay.
They had a very big influence on them. I could give them a lot of credit. They were the first ones to discover this. And I didn't kind of believe it. And then as soon as I finished this book we're talking about right now, the original book on COVID, I happened to be doodling around. I came up with something maybe they found, but I found it for myself. And that was my first introduction to it. And it was the announcement letter by the DOD setting up the entire framework for all of the research and marketing and everything, that it would be under the DOD, and it would be with some partnership with the giant HHS, but they're the giant overlord.
Yes.
And that the FDA would have nothing to do with it.
That's interesting.
So it gets very complicated with the ins and the outs, but it fits with this bizarre idea that they're practicing killing us.
Yes.
Because why would they so protect psychosurgery, deep state? Why would they protect electroshock? Why would they and then psychiatric drugs? At least you can see that there's so much money behind drugs. There's so much power. There's a lot of belief in that they work when all they can do is harm you. They harm you and you think it's working. I mean, people have done that with drugs since time began.
Yes, they have.
Why would they, though, go as gross as the technology? Well, it's a technocratic states we're building. They love technology, and they want to make us more docile. That's what it does. It makes you manageable. Shock and psychosurgery made the wards quieter.
Oh, my goodness.
They would give some patients over 100 shocks to make them quieter. And lobotomy, unless the person gets extremely agitated, makes you robotic. You'll do whatever anybody tells you if you can, but your understanding is pretty crushed. Why would they even list those things as they're looking into it? It's the grossest form of mind control there is, which is destroy the brain. And it's the only revolution in psychiatry. Before, psychiatry grew up in the state mental hospitals. Started with the Industrial Revolution, street people. What are we going to do with these people? Well, we have no way to lock them up criminally. New laws. We have new laws. Now you can lock up somebody for their own good. And so they got these giant lockups, mostly very poor people. Then they separated the very poor people from the mental hospital people. Then they put them back together in the state mental hospitals, which were poor people who also often had serious problems. And that controlling that lockup is the origins of psychiatry. Originally, they try things like just beating people up, poisoning them with arsenic, putting them in spinning chairs. Back in the Revolutionary day, put them in a spinning chair, spin them around till they're vomiting all over the place, put them in freezing tubs. I saw that as a college student at Harvard, poisoning them with when I was the head of the Harvard Radical Volunteer Program.
Yeah.
I saw them giving them comas. They were still giving them comas with overdose of insulin and so on. But it never fully worked until you get to the comas. It didn't work to beat people. It didn't work to spin them. They still could get angry. They still could fight you back a little bit. Then they discovered if we damage the brain, we got it all taken care of. And in 1936, a guy named Moniz got the Nobel Prize later on for it, went in and sliced and diced the front of people's loads and reported that they were really much easier to deal with and handle and whatever, couching it in terms that wouldn't let you know you had just, reduced somebody to you took them away from their soul. You robbed them of being in touch with their soul.
They lobotomized when she was a little girl.
That is an important story in my life. All right, we're going everywhere. You tell me if this gets too wild.
No, I'm hanging right there with you.
All right. So I'm trying to get none of what I did in the old days, the 70s, could be done now. Congress is too under the control of the pharmaceutical industry, the mental health industry, and so on. You couldn't do it. But I was trying to get anti-lobotomy legislation passed. I was working with two wings of the Congress, the Black Caucus, because I was making a big issue about lobotomizing little Black children with hot electrodes at the University of Mississippi in Jackson.
So I have to pause you just right there. So at one of the U.S. universities, they were doing that to small Black children.
4 or 5 years old.
4 or 5 years old.
Yeah, they'd walk around on a ward. They'd walk around on a ward with the wires hanging up the back of their heads. Now,
I have memories of that, Dr. Breggin, when I was a little girl being experimented on. So I have memories of they would put us in dental chairs, and these were the children that had homes to go to, and we would have maybe like an EKG, but a metal something on the head, wires coming out, a monitor. And I can remember after like a session of whatever horrific thing they were doing, I would have to repeat in detail. And I was 3 years old. I didn't know what was happening, but in detail, what I had just experienced. And they would all watch the monitor. And it's like when they found the memory, they would electrocute. So they figured out how to identify where the memory was, I think in hopes that I never remembered and could never speak of what they did to me and the other children. But, we serve a big God. God can put brains back together, I mean, we serve a big God. So they did not succeed. They did not succeed. But what you're talking about, it happened to me and other children that I saw.
Well, your description fits exactly what they were doing at Tulane, for example, with gay men who volunteered to be helped. And they would lobotomize parts of their brain, and they would use these fancy techniques and try to, change get rid of whatever it was that was making them do what they thought was this aberration. And I've written tons about this in earlier books, but I don't even want to go back now and even try to think of where to direct people for that. But our website, go to my website, Breggin.com, very simple, yes. Breggin.com, and go down, that little thing up top that you menu, drop menu, and look for my resume will get you into some of that stuff, but look up subjects like psychiatry, social control. And you'll start to get some of the work that we were doing.
And on the ticker, I've got a ticker for us going, Dr. Breggin, and for the radio audience, there's Breggin, BREGGIN.com is what you're referring to. And we have about 10 minutes left to the show. The radio audience, my website is Q, the letter Q, the word grit, GRIT.org. That's the site to help the little ones rescued from trafficking, whether it's above ground or below ground, as well as the adults with trauma of any kind in their background, as well as Live Younger with Lynne, LYNNE.com. That is, I'm an independent distributor for LifeWave, which is the wearable med bed. And for those watching live or when the show's recorded, every now and then I'll put a ticker at the bottom, ticker tape, so that way you can have access to those websites. I actually have 3 for you, Dr. Breggin. So I want to take a minute. We have about 10 minutes left. The experimentation that the federal government, so much is done underground, but there's a lot happening above ground. I don't think that the U.S. population is aware of. The eugenics, the program that our multi-agencies of our federal government we're going to perform on inner city children. Share what you stopped there.
Yeah. Well, this was a ginger project.
Okay.
I was addressing the International Social Committee of the Mormons.
Okay.
Trying to convince them to stop out in Utah, trying to convince them to stop giving drugs to children in their clinics. I don't think I had any impact. They were quite a well-to-do looking group as I was addressing them, and I didn't get a sense that they were really putting together a God really wouldn't like them drugging children.
Yes,
but I get a phone call, and I'm on my way to Great Britain. This is what I was like back then in the 70s, and I'm on my way to Great Britain fighting psychosurgery. Because I think it was, not psychosurgery, probably drugs and shock and stuff, the whole works. Psychosurgery, I pretty much stopped by then. And she says, honey, I have a new project for us. I said, what? She said, well, I just heard on TV that there's a guy who is, it looks like the highest ranking psychiatrist in the country. He's the head of this agency that's in charge of all the mental health agencies. Doesn't exist anymore. It was above NIMH. Wow. Adam Ha. And she said a black woman secretary has gone to the Washington Post and said that the man Goodwin, and people think he might be Jewish from his name. He's not. I'm Jewish. Goodwin was not Jewish. Goodwin was proposing to do some kind of intervention into all of the inner cities of the country to do something about violence. And it would be a pure science, no sociology, psychology, any of that stuff. Be pure science. When questioned about it, Goodwin said, young black men are like, and I can't remember, it's so disgusting, I can't exactly remember it, but something like, all they like to do is be aggressive, have sex, and wear loose shoes, something like that. It was disgusting. And she said, I want to do something about this. This sounds awful. And I said, honey, I'm too busy. Oh, God, honey, I'm on my way to England.
Yeah.
So I come back, and Ginger's happily waiting for me, of course, at the airport, and can barely contain herself. She said, well, I've been down to Congressman Dellum's office, and I got the speech, and it's worse than those details, because it's a massive program for every agency and the government to go into inner cities, and from pregnancy on to be studying these children to, quote, how to prevent them from being violent. There's not a stitch of science behind this. She said, I know that. She said, or I said. And they're holding a big conference too. They're going to hold a conference. We stopped the conference at the University of Maryland and so on. And that was basically the idea. They were already doing dozens of studies looking at serotonin or dopamine, trying to do genetic studies, all basically saying that violence is biologic, which, except in gross ways, like men are more violent than women, this doesn't hold water. We don't have profiles of genetic any behavior, actually.
Interesting.
Not schizophrenia, so-called. None of it. I mean, the best we can do genetically is things like, oh yes, we can show that when children are born, some of them are a bit more shy than others, and some are a bit more outgoing and demanding than others. And which always brings up, when you go and try to select a puppy from a litter, it's really obvious that they have some different kinds of personality, but there's no way to say that the ones that are more active are going to grow up and be vicious. They might even be the most protective dogs on earth.
Right.
And that the shy ones are going to stay shy. They might turn out to be the most loving dogs on earth. So I think that captures that in a nutshell. And I went to work with the Black Caucus. I addressed the Black Caucus about this. It was really beautiful days. Couldn't do it anymore. And I got some more conservative people interested in it, libertarian people interested in it. Whenever I worked with Congress, I had this interesting background of working with Black leaders who just were delighted to work with me and thanked me up and down. I don't even think that would happen a lot now. There'd just be so many problems going on. And conservative leaders who said, that's not what God wants us to be doing with each other, and got me very quickly. So I was getting it both from the moral side and the political side, and being able to do that kind of work. We eventually, we put so much pressure on them by going to the news, going on radio and TV, especially I went on, probably couldn't do this with any shows anymore, but I probably went on 4 shows on Black TV.
Yeah.
Probably none of them would go into this now. But the government fired Goodwin.
Good.
We weren't even aiming at that. So he became head of an ethics group at one of the local universities.
The universities, I believe that they stopped being United States universities many, many years ago. They are not we the people institutions. And
No.
the poor parents out there are thinking you're sending your children, you're sending them to indoctrination camps. And they're not we the people organizations. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to do your part and stop the horrific experiments that they were planning on doing to the little children in the inner cities, because I know multiple agencies were involved. They were gearing up for it. Like you said, there was no science behind it. There was no reason for it. And it was going to harm so many children. And just like when I was little, our government, the 3-letter agencies are behind this. And
money and power. What's better than getting rich brutalizing people?
Yes, which is just
appeals to a certain personality type.
It does.
The predator.
The predator.
My predator personality type.
Yes, and we are no longer the prey, which is part of your new book title. And God bless you for being on today. Our time is up. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I feel like we had a conversation touching many, many topics. Your wisdom and wealth of knowledge that you have acquired, your freedom fighting over the years that you are still doing is astounding. And I am so grateful to have you on. Do you want to take just a minute to tell us again where people can find you and follow you? And
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with the show. I've enjoyed being with you very much. You have a lovely ambience. It's like really easy to talk.
Thank you.
I just ranged around the world and came up with a few different ways of looking at things, which means I've had a good show. So,
Yeah. Good. Thank you so much.
And my last name's Breggin, Breggin, Peter Breggin. You put that in, there's a massive amount of material on Google. A lot of it good, a lot of it no longer poisonous, which is wonderful. But the Substack is where we pour our living heart and soul into. So if you don't know Substack, it's a separate platform that so far seems to be reasonably on the side of the freedom movement. I mean, reasonably not destroying the freedom movement, which is good. You'll find a lot of people on there who are really wonderful and interesting. And we have, as I said, I think 70,000 people who, in one way or another, sign up for it. We put stuff up certainly more than once a week. We put our radio show up there, so you'll get both the radio show. It always goes up there, even though it begins on Malcolm Out Loud. And we also put up features. We try to put up one each. Sometimes we've reached as high as 100,000 people just on the hits. But the radio show then goes out thanks to PRN. Actually, yeah, PRN has just changed its .news. They see that it gets out. They're longtime friends, and they see that it gets out to every single place you can go. And some places have 800,000 hits on their own over the years. So it's going everywhere. So we could be, when we do a show, because we're going to invite you on.
Yes, thank you so much.
Has Ginger done it yet?
Not yet, but I'm sure we were going to have you on my show first, and then
maybe to figure out who you were.
Maybe. So now you figured some out. That's good.
But she just thought you were amazing from your write-up. Like, well, who is this person? She's just getting started with her show. She's out. And Ginger loves that. Ginger just loves to find somebody that's getting started, and then they become friends for life because we give them a good boost. Check and see. I'd love to see that if you get a boost from my being on your show. I'd be proud of that. It'd make me happy.
Yes, I will, and I'm sure I will, and I will be honored to be on your show. And for the thousands who are watching, until next time, this is the Lynne Scott Haggerman Podcast, where truth is rising, and so are we.
Light breaks the shadow of the weary heart. Truth cuts the dark like a flaming dart. Voices rising strong to lift the call.